Okay.
Wonderful.
All right, Mr. Roach, I think you're on.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I think what you folks had an interest in was having me present, or at least talk a little bit about the info memo that came out of the retreat, if that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know then, in terms of value, should we have the city manager talk about that report first? Or have me give you my thoughts and then hear from the city manager first? I have a hard finish time. I have a Bridge Housing Community meeting at 7 p.m. tonight, which is a very large meeting, a very cantankerous meeting that I have to get to. I'm running it.
So the report is where the Zoom is sent on to all of us, is that the report?
Yes.
Okay, I think we've all read that, so
Okay.
I don't want to speak for the commissioners, but I think we'd like to hear your perspective beyond what's in that report.
Yeah, and I was just offering that up in case you had a preference whether to hear from the city manager and myself, or myself, and then talk to the city manager after the fact. So whatever you folks want to do to approach it, I'm happy to do it. Whatever starts. I've got 28 minutes, so I'm happy to.
So while he's here, does
18.
any commissioners have specific questions?
So you want me to just jump into?
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean,
Okay.
You've got 28
I was
minutes.
looking for
so
some
we're-
direction, but
yeah.
I'm getting more
Yeah.
silence than direction. So this info memo, from my vantage point, I have it in my pocket. The 4 issues that I think one of the ones that the direction was to touch on and have a discussion on coming out of that retreat were the scope, the size, the caucus, and the staff support. And based upon the info memo, and I was not present at the retreat, that was a choice we made talking about it. We didn't really want to get in the way of this discussion. We wanted the commission to have really the freedom and the comfort that there were executive folks there watching, listening, learning, or providing any kind of nudge. So gave you folks as much space to talk about this issue as you needed. Coming out of it, looking at the staff report, what are my thoughts? Well, the one that I was probably the least comfortable with was reducing the size is the one that the recommendation is coming out of the city manager's office. And oftentimes, in many cases, we have a difference of opinion, whether it's a staff direction or a council direction. But that was probably the one that I had the least interest in seeing a change. So given that that's the only recommendation coming out of the city manager's office, my interest was seeing maybe some movement or discussion around those other items a little bit more. But given that there wasn't, as far as the manager's concerned, that's generally where I'm at. What I try not to do is preclude my decision in any council meeting, should this come to council, which I believe that was the direction. So when this comes back, I'm interested in, and I use this kind of what I call the 3-legged stool. And I use this often in land use decisions. You've got the community meeting at the front end of a project. You've got the staff report that makes their recommendation on what they're recommending based on their professional analysis. And then you've got the planning commission's recommendation. So if you've got 3 different parties, the community, the staff, and the planning commission making a recommendation that it's a good project, then you're standing on good ground. If one of those says, we don't support this, we recommend denial, you're on 2 legs, that's pretty wiggly. If you're on 1, then you know that's not a good project. So what I'm trying to suggest and share with you is my approach is to hear from the folks that have an interest in this, which is you, as far as what your interest is on these recommendations. I'm interested in hearing from staff, which we have a staff report. And then I'm interested in hearing from my colleagues in this case. So the mayor and the council, I haven't had a chance to talk to them. And as you know, with the Brown Act, I'm limited to talking to 5 other ones. I think the mayor is in my Brown Act on this one, and I don't know if I've gone beyond that. So I'm interested, as I said, hearing from you folks now. At this point, I've heard from city manager, and I'm also interested in what my colleagues think. The one item that I did have a stronger interest in seeing some movement on was the staffing level of support. Because if you folks feel that this scope is one that warrants your position, and you need that kind of staff support, then we need to make that decision in June. That time has come and passed, so now we're left with the same level of staff support. And that may be fine if the scope accommodates that, or it may not be good if the scope that you folks believe is warranted for your work doesn't cover that. So that's the dilemma that we're in on that particular item. So I'm going to stop there. That's really my answer. I'm not trying to evade the question. I'm happy to give you a very thorough answer once I start hearing from my colleagues and you folks and telling you as I represent either you or the community where I think we should go on this.
Do you want me to answer?
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Lebowski.
Yeah, I can't pretend to know any more than I knew when you sat down, Commissioner Roach. So, with all due respect, I
really like to have a more robust answer. If that answer is not one that you can position today, then perhaps you can come back before you make your advisement to council, full council, as to what your position is, because I have frankly no clue what your position is.
Well, I said the one that I was least interested in is the one that's recommended. I think the size is, I'm quite comfortable with 2. Actually, she spoke to it quite well about having 4 eyes and ears then rather than 2. I think that really is a good service in the community. 1 I don't think is enough. On the other items, as I mentioned, I think I gave you a good sense of the one that I wanted to see the most movement on was the staff one. And we did not provide more staff support during the budget process because we did not get this item across the goal line quick enough. And then I think I've spoken to the other ones in terms of the scope. You know, we had given direction for you to, let's just say, bear with me here. You've got the commission that in one case was saying, we want to keep the scope. We want to do more. We're not getting staff support. Then you have city staff on one end saying, we can't manage the scope of work. We can't do that. You are not the only commission in the city of San Jose. There are a lot of other ones. And we're not hearing that from other commissions. So I take it very seriously when professional staff tells me they're struggling to provide the staff support. So then when 2 parties then go into a room and say, I can't support you at this level, and the other one's saying, we want more support, and you come out with the commission, as an example, saying, I know city staff saying they can't support us at this level, but, oh well, I don't know what kind of answer that is for me to work with. Do I then turn to the city manager and say, do your job and do more than you can handle? That's not a fair direction to city staff, really, in my opinion. I've never seen that, I've never done that, and told city staff that I don't care what you're saying, you can't provide that level of support, you're going to do it anyway. So I was hoping that there would be a little bit more consideration around that particular item. There wasn't, so now I'm left with hearing from you folks, and I know you're trying to put me in a position to give you a better answer, but I haven't even heard from you folks yet as a body what you think of this recommendation coming out, and if there's any one of these other items that you have any movement on. And if there is none, then we go to council, and the mayor and the council decides if we do anything, nothing, a little bit, something. I couldn't tell you. Again, I haven't talked to my colleagues about this. Hopefully that's a little bit more information. I'm not going to give you a direct answer on what my recommendation is going to be that evening. I haven't heard from you, and I haven't heard from my colleagues.
Thank you, Commissioner Rocha. We have, pretty much every commissioner has a wish to speak. So we have a hard stop for you at 6:30, correct?
Yeah. I gotta
Okay,
get
so in the interest of everyone in getting answers as quickly as possible, concise with respect, sir. Concise, I know you're experienced at that. The order currently, Semanik, Fleming, Idreas, Wilkins, Cunningham, Navarro. Okay, Navarro, Carter.
Yeah, John Smatic, District 4. I think the retreat, I think collectively we made it pretty clear that we felt it should be held where it's at. And the prime, and there was lots of reasons, but I think given the size of the city, the geographic footprint, it would be very difficult for any one commissioner to really get a pulse of what's going on. And I think the diversity of not only this commission is very important. We have a very ethnic, diverse community, and I think this commission needs to reflect that. And I think that's very important going forward. And the input from the community, the voice of the community, is to get that ethnic and variation voice of the community from different cultures, I think is very important given the scope of the city. My last point is, we never heard, at least at the retreat, the concept of having a one commissioner citywide. So I don't know where that came from, but we don't need to belabor that now. So I think my question is, how would that be orchestrated as far as finding that person? What would be the logistics around that because it's citywide?
I don't know if I can get us staff.
It'll be their presentation.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Fleming.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So I have one question. I sent you an email on this, and
Got
so
it.
everybody
Thank you.
else knows.
Some good input.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are you open to that 1-year stay? So since we can't change June, budget, get more staffing for this commission, are you open to giving us a 1-year stay as is, and asking council to do the same, then in June of next year saying, hey, increase staffing, if our bylaws and the relief from those bylaws don't provide staff that relief that they're requesting?
I think it's a great suggestion. Is it one that I'm going to land on? I also, after I hear from you folks, then I've got some thinking to do, and then I'm going to check back in with the city manager's office prior to the council action and get a sense of some of the stuff that we've heard from you in terms of feedback. I don't know how you folks tend to want to approach this issue as the verbal feedback you're going to provide to either myself or to Zulma, and how that's going to be incorporated into maybe a recommendation to council, because I value your input and your opinion, and I'm looking forward to it, because there may be some good ideas such as the information you provided, not just on that one, but there's a number of items there that I thought were very helpful. So am I open to that? Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Wilkins, I'm going to pass for the moment. Commissioner Wilkins.
Just real quick, my recollection of that Saturday was the one thing we are in agreement with you, we could do a much better job of being efficient working with the staff. And I know that we all felt comfortable that we could go back and have maybe a more single point of contact, or there's things we could do, so we are in alignment on that. It was the others that I think we pushed back on.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes, Commissioner Cunningham, District 1. The staffing issue has been one of my concerns when I first saw the original memo that triggered this. I've reached out several times to staff when you said that there's too much of a drain on how much staff and support we're getting. I try to find out what is the staff support we're getting, so we could tell, if we're supposed to be allocated 200 hours, are we going 300-400 hours? And what can we do, to get into a 200-hour time frame? Well, a lot of us here, I work with staffing, budgets, systems, and procedures. We've streamlined a lot of the ways we work here on this commission. We came up with a caucus procedure that the intent of that was to reduce staff time in supporting that caucus process. That wasn't implemented in the last caucus go-around for some reason. We've come up with other methods for conducting our ad hoc committees, where we have methodology for conducting them, which is efficient and reduces staff time. But we haven't been able to find out what is the nut, how big is that staff support. We don't know, and so we don't know how we can reduce that, and we don't know what areas of that staff support is putting the drain and the pressure on so that we can work in those areas. So we have a lot of people here that want to make things happen, but if we don't know where we can go in and fix and tweak and tune, we can't do anything. Okay? Maybe you sense my level of frustration here, because I see this as a workable problem, but I can't get my arms around it to work on it.
Thank you, and you framed that actually in a very helpful way, is exactly what particular sections or items are the ones that are the greatest drain, as you use as a word, so knowing exactly where a majority of that time is being spent supporting you, and is there an opportunity there to reduce that?
I don't know of anybody on this commission that is not wanting to do that and reduce those those hours. If they're what can we do? That we don't know.
Good, thank you, very helpful.
We have 6 minutes. 2 commissioners and 3 commissioners and 2 from the public. Commissioner Nora.
Commissioner Barrow, District 6. I did have an opportunity to kind of talk to you about this, and my concern is the amount of the population that we take care of here in San Jose. You guys are obviously stringent as council. I went to council yesterday, and I remember specifically the mayor stating that they're short on being able to provide services, and I understand that, but that's more of a reason why you guys should embrace the commission as a tool to assist the council. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a burden. I think it's a tool that's being underutilized, and we're not being effective because we keep on, and in the middle of the year, we got all of a sudden in charge of the budget, and we had to learn about that. And things are kind of sprung on us, and on top of that, when we talk about staffing issue for the commission, if I remember correctly, we didn't really have someone. We had someone filling in for Ernie most of the beginning of last year. And so I think that's what's contributed a lot to the staffing part of it. We can definitely be more efficient, we can definitely streamline, and we can definitely focus on the things that we're supposed to be focusing on, like the budget, public safety, transportation, exactly what is part of our duties. But again, I think council should look at us as a tool. to be able to engage the community the way they can, because they themselves are limited to doing the outreach. And I know that certain councils would definitely benefit from it. Much more than that, the community would benefit from us. I know that when I speak to my neighbors, they're really appreciative because they don't get to go to council sessions that often. They don't get to know what's going on. And even though we have social media, we are able to kind of divide and conquer our own district, which is a huge district. District 6 has a lot of involved neighbors, but unfortunately not everybody has social media, not everybody's on the know what's going on. And so I'm very grateful to have a wonderful partner in my district where we can divide that. And it is a volunteer position. Again, we're not getting paid to do this. We're volunteering our time to help the council and to help the city and to help our community. So the fact that, yes, we are taking up some staff, but if we can figure out an efficient way to just focus on the things we're supposed to focus on, I think that that would be a great asset to the city. And it would be a catastrophe, I think, to lose one more member in our community that's willing to take time out of their personal life to share. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up? I know time is of the essence, but
It's your time.
there's one interesting point there, and let me ask the question when you say an asset to the council. How would that, I like it, I'm trying to get my head around, how is that facilitated? Is that facilitated directly from you to that council office that you represent? Is that facilitated through the city manager to the city council and that relationship? Is that directly as a body of a whole, the city council and this commission as a whole? You see the three avenues that came to mind. Which one of those is
So
all the above?
The main purpose is that we went over this. We're here to communicate to the public where you guys can't get to, right? We have access to different people that, and I apologize, I'm getting messages missing as well. I'm a little nervous here. But we are the liaison for you guys. Think of us as the fingers that you guys can't grasp, right? So it's to the benefit of the council, and it could be just for one area because we're divided by districts, and it should be that way, I personally think. However, we're allowed to cross districts because guess what? I have a district next to me, District 3, that I work really well with, and if they need our services and we're able to work and collaborate together with the council, why not? So be it. It's better for the community. If there's certain things that council needs to bring down, or the city manager through this city council, but we're not making the decisions, we're just being the liaison in between, just traveling that information on your behalf. And vice versa. The community also wants to get the information to council so that you guys know what's going on. For example, this neighborhood commission, you can't talk to everybody, but guess what? We can talk to everyone else and tell them how we feel about our commission. Not everybody has that privilege. You don't even have that privilege, right? So that's why you should utilize us to kind of get the community more involved. We all want to be here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carter.
Okay, I'm going to make it very brief because a lot of the points that I was going to make have already been made. I was a little disappointed in the city manager's memo because of the way the retreat went for us. I don't think there was anybody here that actually wanted to see the commission reduced down to 10 people, but now 11 with the recommendation of the city manager. But a lot of us, and I'm going to parrot some of these people here, that we really are the voice of the community. We communicate, or I communicate, and I know a lot of the other commissioners communicate directly with our city council member. We attend many association meetings throughout the month in between our monthly meetings so that we do communicate what's happening at this commission and what's going on with the city manager's office and the other liaisons that report to us. So I think we are communicating back and forth, up and down. One of the things that I know, I'm a strict believer in chain of command. So one point of contact, whether it's Sabrina or the chair of this committee, I think all of us really need to work through that person before we go anywhere else to clear our ideas with them before we report out to, say, another department. So I think that may alleviate some of the staff's issues with time constraints, because I know the staff is really understaffed. All departments are understaffed. I know this very well. So thank you for being here, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you our feedback.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Borchi, you said you had a hard stop.
Is there
We do
one
have
more person? I
members
don't
of
want
the-
to cut that one person off. Was
we
there
have
one left?
two members of the public and one commissioner who'd like to speak.
Can I hear out the commissioner?
I'm the commissioner.
Oh, please.
But I'd actually like the public to speak. I'd pass over the public, and that two people are Richard Zappelli and Ed Rast, and if we could ask please to be concise in the interest of everyone's time.
Ed Rast speaking for myself. I was on the group that basically helped come up with the idea, and we built the political support for the neighborhood commission. The issue that I think you're looking at, I put a public records request in and asked how many hours did each department put in the neighborhood commission. They never kept track, so it's anecdotal is what they have. Second, one of the things I see on this commission, and maybe I'm incorrect, is probably, with the exception of Jim Carter, how many of you actually have ever been on a board or commission before, or task force for the city? One, okay. So what you have new people. Then you have the issue with Ernest not being there, being out sick, and we have people coming and going on this thing. So part of it is really people didn't understand, and the city manager's office, which was overwhelmed with the immigrant situation, with the flood and all the other things, no wonder they're overwhelmed because of all the unexpected things that went on. So therefore, if those events had not occurred and you had more experienced people here, I think you would have had a different result. And so I think what you want to try to do is recommend that you push off the evaluation until probably late spring of next year, and I think the problems will have been solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Richard Zappelli.
I'm with the Neighborhood Association, and I'm very concerned about the cutback because I understand the workload of volunteers. I was on the Good Neighbor Committee for over 2 years and several other committees. And if you're going to do a good job as commissioner or any committee thing, you need a team. You need people working together. And when you start cutting back on the workload, especially on volunteers that have other things going on in their life, you're really cutting back on the effectiveness of communication with the city council. And I think that's really, really important. So I would be opposed to any cutbacks on the neighborhood commission. I think it should remain at 20 people. Thank you.
Thank you.
And which association are you with?
Willow Glen.
Willow Glen? Willow Glen Association.
Willow Neighborhood Association, I'm president of the board.
All right,
Thank you.
Councilmember, we have one more. We must hear from Nora.
Oh.
Yes, my name is Norma Callender, and I'm a former commissioner with Marie Arnold for District 2. And when I first heard about this suggested cutback, it was absolutely a shock to me. And Marie may have already covered it, but there were times, for instance, when she was on vacation, at least we knew District 2 was covered. And if I remember correctly, we used very little. It was almost de minimis support. When you look at the entire support we get from the city aggregately, as a group, we really did not request that much support. My final comment is, if we reduce this commission in size, how much more paper will we save? How many more hours of typing this will cost? I just don't believe it is a prudent idea. And if anything, we should be looking at extending the size rather than reducing.
Thank you. All right.
One more?
Sorry, I've got to fly. Yeah.
For Luke's
Good.
time.
Good. If anyone's speaking, it's me.
Go ahead.
So, okay. So I have 3 comments that I think speak to what everyone said. But first, I'm asking for a 1-year stay. You know, let us all collectively get our act together. Let us all get bylaws in place. Let's get consistency of staffing. Let's get a work plan in place. Let's create some bedrock, just basic, non-quicksand-like operational activity that if you look in my eyes, I promise you and the city I will deliver. 2, streamlining is just crucial. Like all of us in our lives, we're real experts at streamlining and efficiency, and working with Sabrina, I can promise you that will be a real focus. Norma's comment, how much less typing will there be? There's a set overhead here that keeping the 10 people on the commission, that just doesn't go away. 3, my real comment is that the city is growing and it's becoming more diverse. It is antithetical to the goals of the city to take this commission that speaks on behalf of the conduit between the neighborhoods and the city council to say that it should become smaller and less diverse. to take a seat away from a new immigrant, this would be the commission you would serve on. You're not going to serve on the airport commission. You're not going to serve on housing commission. This would be the commission that we would look to say, new immigrants come sit on. We take out 10 seats, 10 leaders, voices cut off. That is not the right thing for this city.
Well put. And if I may, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to ask if you could request you to come back, so we could have the discussion and give you the input that you said that you would like to hear in a more, in this forum, I believe, would be the right forum to do it, perhaps.
Sure. When's this go to council?
August 22nd.
So there's no other meeting.
Kicks us
before
past, so how do we get you the input?
That's what I was going to ask. My final question was, are you going to put this in writing and as a formal letter from you folks and all agree on your position? Are you going to do individual from each person? I don't know how you're going to
I
approach
think
it.
we would do it as a
We
body.
can talk about it.
But we-
So
We can
that
talk
would be,
about it.
and let me say, I just wanted you to say, that is one of the reasons why, as you heard, the valuable input I got, is why I always try and hold off on making a decision prior to hearing from either the community, staff, the commission itself. I got some great stuff. I really appreciated Mr. Fleming's information in the direction. I was curious to see if that was shared by a lot of folks. So that's one of the reasons why I hesitate to take early positions without knowing the full information. So I thought this was extremely helpful.
And Commissioner Rocha, before you go, there's 3 words, 1 year stay. That's it. That really would solve a lot of
Smile on my
problems.
face, I don't disagree, I think it's a great idea. But
1 year stay.
let me get with city staff and think about it myself as well.
Thank you, thanks for making it.
Good luck on your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, before we go to the regular agenda, Zoe, do you have any footnotes here you'd like to talk about this subject?
We
Go ahead.
Since we're on this agenda, I think, can I just go ahead and, I don't know if you wanted to do elections first or move to this.
Yeah, elections next, so.
Yeah, let's just do
okay.
this, since we're on the topic. Good evening, everyone. Again, Surima Mastiat, Assistant to the City Manager in the City of San Jose. As you saw in the memo that was attached to the agenda, we have the staff recommendations based on the retreat that we had in April. And as you know, just background information, this was a direction that was given, the next slide please. This was a direction that was given by Councilmember Rocha to look at a number of things, which is the scope of the commission's work, the commissioner appointment process or the caucus, the size of the commission, and to also consider the level of staffing. And part of this grew out of frequent communications from this commission to different departments, bypassing the city manager's office, so the efficiencies in communication wasn't there, and it was creating a heavy workload, not only for the city manager's office, but like I mentioned at the retreat, it was creating a larger workload for other departments. And so this was raised to the council members, and as a result, Councilmember Butcher prepared a memo for the Rules Committee to put this forward to the City Council, and the City Council then voted unanimously to approve the recommendation to have a retreat and to consider these things. Following this decision, as you know, we organized a commission retreat, and I think most of you were there. And again, we reviewed the scope of the commission's work. We reviewed commissioner appointment process. We talked, you all provided input on the slide. So this was mostly the commissioners speaking on these topics. It wasn't so much the city providing feedback or recommendations. We had already talked, and we continued after the retreat to talk to several other members of the city manager's office and other departments, so we didn't work on this in isolation, but really this was an opportunity to hear from the commission. But from that commissioner's feedback, we then took the summary of the notes to the city manager's office, spoke to other city staff, and we also referred back to the retreat facilitator, Sean Spano, to see if the summary had reflected, was accurate, right? We wanted to make sure that what was reflected in the notes was accurate before we considered what the recommendations would be. So after we did that, we also had to consider our current policy, and the policy 0-4, which was revised in the spring, also coincided with all of this. And the policy 0-4 is specific guidelines, instructions on how city boards and commissions should operate. And certainly this commission has had its own set of rules for a long time, but never written, so there aren't any bylaws. The appointment process is very unique. The size is certainly very different, and so there hasn't been anything codified to really guide what this commission looks like. So we wanted to make sure that at least there is some consistency with the current policy. We also had to reflect on past commission workload, and we owned it during the retreat. I said I know there's been a number of the changes in terms of staffing that supported the commission, and unfortunately one of the member that the city staff person that oversaw this commission as well as another commission and a lot of other workload was in and out of the office because of illness, and as a result of that we did have some turnover, right? But we had to bring back all those that did work on the commission during the last 2 years and reflect on what happened during that period, what was the workload like, and then compare that to other commissions that we've staffed. And that is basically the kind of things that we were looking at. We then drafted the recommendations, and we thought it would be important to share that with you all before we take it to City Council, right? I don't know if I have, what's the next slide? I have that one. So as you saw in the memo, the staff recommendation is to maintain the current scope. And so one of the reasons that this came up is because there is concerns that perhaps this commission was creeping into other commissions' work. And I think that at the retreat we heard loud and clear that in the first year maybe the work plan was a little ambitious, and perhaps this next year there should be more laser focus on the things that are within the scope. And since you all agreed that had happened, we thought, okay, there's no reason to reevaluate what the scope or the mission of the commission is. It's doable. It's just we have to be careful, and I think our role in the city manager's office is to monitor that and make sure that it doesn't spill over to the kinds of work or policy decisions or policy recommendations that other commissions might make in the city. Okay. There is also, we heard that there's a desire to narrow the focus within still the structured areas to no more than 5 items for the current fiscal year. And again, we don't feel like we need to change any of that, and so our recommendation to the city council is to maintain that as is. Next slide. The second piece was around the caucus process, and we heard loud and clear that the commissioners felt very strongly that this was a great way to get representation by district, and that it was more suitable for this commission as opposed to the city's appointment process. So while this is not within the guidelines of our current policy to have a caucus process, we'll have to make some amendments to an ordinance related to this commission because this is unique. But we are proposing that we maintain the caucus process. We believe that in close coordination with United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County and with strong leadership from this commission, caucuses can be delivered in a timely way, in an efficient way, rather than city staff taking on and coordinating logistics for 5 different meetings and then another 5 and so forth. So we believe that, again, this not only was it inherently important for the commission is to maintain this caucus, but we also believe that with better coordination, this does alleviate some of the workload on city staff. The third recommendation is the one that we spend most of the time talking about, and the feedback, which we anticipated we'd get this feedback, and we'll continue to hear it. The commission, we understood and we heard loud and clear that the commission would like to maintain the size to 20. And in fact, I think it was also recommended that we double it to 40 at one point. So we looked back at this, and this is one area where we feel that that reducing the number of the commissioners on this commission would be in alignment with the current policy that we have. It'll be in alignment with other city boards and commissions. It'll create better efficiencies even within the meeting. I can tell you that in our observations, to have 20 members try to discuss things in a way that's efficient and effective is difficult. There's a lot to say with 20 members, and it takes up a lot of time for each item, and I'm not sure that it's really feasible to get it done within 2 hours. So it does create better efficiencies in meeting management, and it also enables reasonable city support. As you know, and I've said this before, and I said it at the retreat, Thankfully, we now have Sabrina, but Sabrina is not full-time staff to this commission. There's a lot of other work that the city manager's office has for her and on her plate. And while we don't know what the allocation of staffing hours is per month for every commission in the city, it's not feasible to request that there be many hours a week. It's really more facilitating the administrative process to get these meetings going. It's mostly you that lead it, right? But many times, because of the large commission, there are multiple inquiries into the city manager's office or into other departments that eventually land now on Sabrina, that require follow-up, that require closing the loop with several members of the city council or several members of the department heads. So again, this commission is to enable a reasonable city staff, or this particular recommendation is to enable reasonable city staff support. And then based on all of these, reducing the size of the commission, let me get to that.
I wanted to ask if it's interactive, is what I'm trying to assert, or if it's...
I only have 2 more slides left, actually maybe 3. The next steps, it doesn't really count. So reducing the size of the commission, somebody asked earlier, how would this happen? This is a recommended process. Of course, this would be different. If the city council decides to reduce the size of the commission, we would offer this process, and again, we could bring this back to the commission at that time. It's not something that needs to be voted on now because we don't know what the city council will decide. But it's essentially odd districts are up for renewal in the spring of 2018, and we would recommend that through the caucus process, we have 1 commissioner for a council appointment. For the at-large seat, it would be appointed by City Council after taking into consideration the recommendation of the Council Appointment Advisory Commission, as many of the others are done. And for the even districts, we would have a runoff in the spring of 2018, where community recommends 1 of the 2 seated commissioners to finish his or her term. This one is not up for debate, okay? This is not, we have to first see whether or not we get to that place. So I don't want to spend any time on this piece, but we have, since the question was asked, we had thought about it. And then the next piece is maintain city staff support. So I understand that Councilmember Rocha was anticipating that we would be asking for more staff support, but it's not reasonable to ask within this budget climate for more staffing. Nobody is going to get more staffing. We certainly were not going to get more staffing, and we could not justify more staffing for a commission. But based on the recommendations that the city is making, and perhaps just creating more efficiencies, then this is, the city staff support is doable. So we're recommending maintain the current level of staff. And again, from now on, I'm happy to report that Sabrina now is permanent in our office. This was a transition, period, and we expect that she'll stay for a number of years. I know no commitments yet, but I'm really happy to have Sabrina on board. I know that she's met with most of you already, so I'm hopeful about the future. And also, we want to be able to provide better support for you. Next steps, you all discussed this item. I know we're way over past on the agenda. I took down notes from the feedback that you gave, Councilmember Rocha. I would suggest that if there's anything different from what you've already mentioned, we discuss those as soon as I stop talking. Otherwise, I think I captured everything. And then we'll incorporate a summary of this discussion into the City Council memo. So aside from a summary of the retreat, staff recommendations will also provide a summary of additional input, which probably will reflect the same thing we heard at the retreat. And then the mayor and the city council will hear the item on August 22nd during the evening session. With that, I conclude my report and we'll take questions.
Commissioner Lubowski, then Wilkins.
So I see the recommendation is a very strong recommendation here that the commission be reduced.
Commissioner, can you use your microphone, please?
Oh, yes. Sure.
Thank you.
It's a strong recommendation that the commission be reduced from the current level down to half its level. And the underpinnings of that seem to be around efficiencies and cost. And I'm really struggling to understand what that means. Efficiencies is too loose of a word just to sort of let it come out of the box and squirm around the room. I don't get that. And the cost issue, there's going to be a step function cost and a burden that you have to hurdle, that you have to get over. And once you're over that, that's the costs pretty much. Each and every one of us, you can't take it and divide it by 20. So I'm just trying to figure out, how is that determined? Is this anecdotal, as we heard from Ed Rast, or is this more specific? Is there any kind of accounting been done in any way, shape, or form, so I can understand what those efficiencies really are and what the cost savings might be?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we don't have, I mean, this has gone through so many different hands over the last 2 years that we don't have a cost allocation, nor did we mention that in our memo, that this would reduce cost. It basically, by efficiencies, we mean that there would be a better, one point of contact from this commission to the city manager's office. But let me just give you some examples. So some of it is anecdotal because we've had to go through previous emails to see what was happening. And so, you know, one city staff member received 150 emails from one commissioner during a 6-month period. We don't have the time to go back to the city manager's office, all 5 or 4 members that were supporting the commission at one point, or back to the city attorney's office who had to answer dozens of questions from several commission members on a variety of things, nor to the clerk's office who also had to answer numerous questions. So it's not just us, right? So a lot of the anecdotal information that we collected led us to believe that there were a lot of other people that were impacted as a result of the multiple inquiries and questions across the city, not just the city manager's office.
So is the function, if the council was, the commission was cut in half, the number of staff members, commissioners, would that reduce your work by half, or would it be 10%?
No, not necessarily, but when I say efficiencies in this management in this meeting, I mean, if you think about the last several meetings and you do the round robins on every discussion, you're talking about 20 people giving an opinion on a topic area. And we're supposed to be out, for example, tonight in an hour and 10 minutes. And in other commissions that I've staffed, it's just much easier to come up to decisions and
We do
make
get
a
it done,
decision.
though. I mean, we're generally out on time in the last many meetings, and we get our work plan done. So I'm really struggling with what was the basis and the underpinning to this. It seems very loosey-goosey, very anecdotal, somebody talked to somebody over a cue ball around over the drinking fountain. I just simply am not seeing anything crisp, anything that's tangible, anything that's other than anecdotal. And I think making decisions based on anecdotal, and their cost was discussed. I may not have been in your memo. It's been discussed. It was discussed a moment ago when Commissioner Rocher was in your chair. So there's a communication that's happening that this is going to somehow reduce costs, it reduces staff utilization, that would reduce costs. That's clearly being communicated. I think it's highly inaccurate. I just think it's completely inaccurate. I don't see it, and I still don't see it after your discussion nor your presentation. Would you like to expand further?
I think I've already answered that question.
Okay, in the
Let's
interest
move on.
of time,
There was a question, actually,
I think we
it's
move on.
Commissioner, please.
I think we move on.
Commissioner, thank you both very much. Thank you for your feedback. Commissioner Wilkins.
I'll be brief, District 2. Given the purpose of this commission, it's just kind of ironic that one of the solutions would be to reduce us. I mean, we're meant to be this conduit in both directions in the community, and it's like removing radar from the control tower to save money. It's ludicrous. And then, so that's not a question. The question is, where did that 11th person come from? Because we never said it. And if the concern is the number of bodies in this room, adding one from the city it just doesn't make sense.
So the 11th member would be a citywide appointment, not a city member. And it's mostly so that you have an odd number in the commission to be able to vote. Just like other commissioners, other commissions are 11 members. Other city board and commissions.
Okay.
Hi, folks. We have to
Yeah,
move on.
we have 1 hour here, so can we move on? Okay, so I'm still the pro tem, but thanks, Nicole. Thanks for helping me out here. Okay, so I think we'll write a collective statement back to you in the city clerk's office about our position on this. So I think we'll do that in the next several weeks or whatever is reasonable. Okay, so let's move on to the elections.
But we will be going up to the council on August 22nd.
What is our due date to provide any formal feedback?
Which is next week.
Like a hard date?
Yeah, before the rules.
10 minutes.
That's already next week.
Yeah, I mean, next week.
Like tonight?
So we have to write the
At
letter.
1 p.m., 1 a.m. Okay, soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zulma, for being here. Thank you.
By the way, I think this is a very important discussion, so this is what we do, so I think it's very important we discuss this collectively. So I think it was good. Okay, let's move on to elections. So now we're starting the regular agenda for our election of chair and vice chair. All of you received packets at this meeting. I believe it's one Nicole for chair and Jonathan for vice chair. And their statement outlined the reasons that they wanted to take on the leadership role. So at this point, before we go into any further, the commissioners can self-nominate themselves, nominate others, and if you do so, be prepared to speak of what you'd like to participate out of that position. So is there any commissioners that would like to self-nominate or nominate other people? Okay, so with that, I'll pass it on to Sabrina to talk us through the process and answer any questions as we proceed.
Well, this should be a pretty straightforward process because you have one candidate for each position. So at this point, I will ask you all if you are voting in favor of having Nicole Edros as your chair, and we will vote by a show of your usual voting practice. I think you're allowed to vote for yourself if you want.
Oh.
You vote for yourself.
That's you.
Ella, warning.
Okay, I believe that was unanimous.
Okay. Great. And then I will ask you guys all if you're accepting the vote of, we were accepting Jonathan Fleming as your vice chair. Those are all green, I believe. Yes. Okay, great. That's it. You have a new chair.
You want to tell them our Disney theme?
Beauty and the Beast. But you'll have to guess which one of us is Beauty and which one of us is Beast.
I love you both.
Okay, let's see. So Jonathan is going to take over calling on folks, and he'll do what we've been doing. Please wait to be recognized by the vice chair, to be recognized. And next, anything else on the calendar?
Perhaps just, I guess the city council meeting to decide the fate of the neighborhood commission is on 22nd.
22nd.
So
And
it should all be in
That's a good
attendance.
point. And what was the deadline Zuma said? Did somebody write it down for our feedback?
It was like a week, I think she said, but really, if we're gonna write a letter as a body, we need to write that body tonight, because we won't be able to approve it otherwise.
That's right. You guys really would need to come out with the content of that letter by this meeting.
by this
Otherwise, you guys could all submit individual letters, however you'd like.
Well, given a number of things, I personally think individual letters is more powerful. We've spoken in the form of a retreat. We spoke multiple times in the form of multiple different body-like feedback. And I feel like our council members getting 20 letters or X number of letters from us speaks more than a letter from the body. So a potentially self-serving letter from this body.
Commissioner Lebowski?
So I would concur with Chairman that
Chair.
Confer the agree with the
The
chair.
esteemed and honorable.
Esteemed and
most.
honorable. That 22nd showing up in person, that is consistent with what you just described, is probably the most powerful statement we could make. So if we show up and we had 20 of us there, it would make a huge difference. If we show up and we had 3 of us there, that's helpful, but closer to 20 is better. None of us are there, I know what I would do if I was a council member. I'd say lack of interest. So the more we can get there, the better, and that matters. We'll all be able to speak, we'll all at least get the 2 or 3 minutes that they give you, and go from there.
Yeah, and so before we go to the
Sorry,
next.
just want to clarify, it's 2 minutes, and if there's a ton of people, they sometimes cut it down to 1, so you guys can prepare appropriately.
And so before we go to Commissioner Wilkins, my council member told us this is going to be the first item on the evening agenda. Is that correct?
Right.
It is the
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been held to the evening agenda, and because this comes under what would be section 4 of the agenda, therefore it would be the first thing heard before any of the section 10 stuff on the agenda.
So that starts at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. is when
the evening session.
evening session, so
Yes.
be there just before 6.
Yeah. And it's free parking.
Well, sorry, to be clear, one more thing. There's one or two sometimes ceremonial items that happen, so it won't be heard right at 6. It'll be heard immediately following the ceremonial items.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Just clarification then, we're doing individual letters or emails. Is it to our respective council member, to all of them, or to him?
So I personally plan to handwrite on my own stationery, has my name on it, personal letters to each council member with those 3 points that I made.
Got it.
People can do what they want, but to me, if I got that to me says the most. I think email's fine, I think any communication, I think just keep it concise, and I would bullet it, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So.
Oh, Commissioner Estrada, sorry.
I just, I was a little bit torn right now about should we write a letter or individual letters. And the only thing I see missing from this document that Suoma Maciel created is it doesn't summarize what the commission recommended. And I wondered, it sounds like staff is going to write a document now for the council. This is not for the council. And I wondered if that could include the neighborhood commission's recommendation.
So there is a council memo that has in each section, so under the 4 areas of concern, for lack of better terminology right now, it has a section that says commission recommendations and then staff recommendations. So they're separate. And we haven't given it to you guys because I think now we are also going to incorporate in the commission recommendations some of the feedback from this evening.
Thank you, I appreciate that you guys are doing that.
Commissioner Henry, did you have something to say?
Commissioner, we have a member of the public who would like to speak.
One thing real quick, I wanted to make a comment here. I feel that we should do both. I feel that this body should write a letter, even if it's a short letter, and I do feel that we should independently write our own letters to our council members and to this entire city council. I think that way you have something from this body, because that's kind of what Councilmember Rocha was looking for. Has this body made an official statement? The answer is no, because we have not written a letter.
I would just disagree with that. The retreat was our collective answer.
Go ahead, Commissioner Estrada.
So maybe there's a compromise here because if I understand correctly, staff will include neighborhood commission recommendations in the document that they provide to the city council. If we were to write a letter, we would do it in less than 6 minutes, and it would be something like a one simple sentence that says, we urge the council to consider the commission's recommendations.
Yeah, I would almost say, as Councilmember Rocha said, he'd be open to the 1-year stay, which our chair also mentioned. I feel that we should write a very short letter asking for a 1-year stay as is, so that we can create our bylaws, and then we can also then see what that impact is on staff. If that impact doesn't reduce load enough, then they can go ahead and reevaluate, possibly with more staff or whatever they recommend in 2018.
I move to do exactly what you just said in 5 minutes.
Hold on. We have a member of the public who wishes to speak. I want to be respectful here. We've had quite enough time to speak among ourselves. So, Dilbert Ng, hello, welcome.
Hello, I'm terribly late because my start time for this meeting, I had it wrong, about an hour later. But, so I apologize. Just wanted to make a comment on a recap of what you've spoken about earlier. Hopefully it's not a repeat of what you discussed. This is about the staff recommendation about the reduction of the makeup of this Neighborhood Commission. I believe the Neighborhood Commission does really good work. So I'll get to the point. I do not like the change to reduce the commission seats from 2 members to 1 member from each district. This proposal gives a major impression our elected city representatives has not favored recent feedback, advisory feedback, inputs from the neighborhood commissions. thus seeking to weaken its voice and influence by weakening the neighborhood commission. 50% reduction when it comes to problem solving and ideas. 2 heads are better than 1. So this is more like a plea to city council and the mayor. Do not change or reduce the number of commission seats. Also, do not change to allow a commissioner appointed by the mayor. With this proposal, the mayor would impart an unfair influence, as this appointed commissioner will be a personal, commissioner for the mayor's personal viewpoint and agenda in the midst of the neighborhood commission. Though this implication may be denied, this will be a blatant impropriety, as the mayor is already represented through his district's neighborhood commissioner, where he resides. The appointment and beholden commissioner will also become a vote tiebreaker bias in the mayor's favor. So do not change or allow a commissioner appointed by the mayor. This would be another step towards reduction of rights of citizens to an open door government. Characteristics of communism and fascism. Councilman Tam Nguyen from District 7, from which I am from, would never go for this, or would he? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for taking your time tonight.
Well said.
Yes.
All right, we have 2 minutes. Jonathan's finished our letter, yes?
Kind of.
You want to read it?
So far, here's what I got, and I'm hoping all of you guys are going to help me like we did on homelessness. The Neighborhoods Commission requests a 1-year stay of the commission as is, with no changes for this 2017-2018 year. This will give the commission time to generate bylaws, including protocols and procedures for commonly asked questions of commissioners. This will give the commission the opportunity to become more efficient and will optimally reduce workload on staff. Now I feel that we're missing one piece of that, which would be it would allow for the city council to put back on the table the increase in city staff and funding. As Councilmember Roach has said, they can't do it currently because that happened in June of 2018. We would be allowed to have that option on the table, so that's when they can make that decision if they needed to. So help me put that on a piece of paper.
I think going there, okay. I think keeping it short, like you've done, and maybe trying to add a sentence or 2 about diversity.
Yeah,
This
that's
is,
what I was
for
gonna
me,
say.
we're growing and we're diverse, and we're going to get shrunk and we're not going to be diverse. And to me, that's the crippling part of this. So I don't know how can we stay a couple minutes late, folks?
Yeah, and I second exactly what that was going to be my suggestion. Not go into the money thing, but go into the diversity and the fact that we're growing and they need that extra coverage.
You know, if I could just make a comment too, I think I said this when I was here, it's the diversity of this commission itself to represent the community and representing the diversity of the interests of those diverse communities in terms of issues. And that may be subtle, but I think it's very important.
All right, so help me make that sentence. So the diversity of this commission is...
Well, it
reflects the diversity of the community.
The membership composition of this committee.
It's critical to maintain the diversity, representative diversity, something like that.
We reflect the diversity of the community.
Commissioner Carter?
Yeah, and diversity of this committee reflects the diversity of our neighborhoods.
Right.
Not just the community, but our individual neighborhoods. We are the neighborhoods commission, so I think the neighborhood needs to be in there somewhere.
Right, good point.
If I can borrow a pen, I'll describe something real quick.
What'd you dream up there, Jonathan?
Here's what we got. So the diversity of the commission is critical to maintain the representative diversity of our neighborhoods.
Yes.
And we can do that. So the whole thing reads, the Neighborhoods Commission requests a
On your
one-year...
sign.
It's okay, just keep, go ahead.
Okay. The Neighborhoods Commission requests a one-year stay of the Neighborhoods Commission as is, with no changes for this 2017-2018 year. This will give the Neighborhoods Commission time to generate bylaws, including protocols and procedures for commonly asked questions of commissioners. This will give the Commission the opportunity to become more efficient and will ultimately reduce workload on staff. The diversity of the Commission is critical to maintain the representative diversity of our neighborhoods.
But you gotta tie it to the quantity.
The diversity of this Commission is critical to maintain.
Made possible through made possible by the size, or through the size of the Commission, something like that.
Retaining the size of the commission keeps pace with, or something like.
Well, yeah, put that in front of his sentence. Maintaining the size of this commission,
Yes.
comma, and then yours.
So I put, Commissioner Estrada, you've had your
Wordsmith.
Oh, and it's just the opposite either way, but I would just think that if the jeopardy is the reduction, so a reduction in the size of the commission would jeopardize whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different way of saying it, however you want to say
No,
it.
I like that.
That's a good point. So right now, keep that in mind here. I have the diversity of the Commission is critical to maintain the representative diversity of our neighborhoods made possible through retaining the size of the Commission. Alternatively, we could put reducing the size of the Commission. Jeopardizes, thank you. Jeopardizes the representative diversity of our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The representation.
Sabrina, can Jonathan email that to you and put that on letter?
Yes.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
Oh, yeah, can you read, sorry, when you're done, if you can read it one more time.
Yeah, I've got some.
Wordsmithing. Why don't we do something else while you do that?
Hey, thank you.
Okay. No pressure, Jonathan. All right, we've reviewed the working calendar, review council priorities, review city council priorities for the upcoming 6 months, determine if the commission should offer assistance by conducting community outreach. And folks, I won't let us go late again, but we'll end at about 8:10, 8:15 tonight. Sabrina, is that you?
My only thing I was going to say is that there's still one item left on your agenda you haven't dealt with.
Oh.
That's what I like that, certain.
Let's hope it's a really lengthy, difficult.
Always got to go through that. So I've got this done if we want to do this real quick. The Neighborhoods Commission requests a one-year stay of the Neighborhood Commission as is, with no changes for this 2017-2018 year. This will give the Neighborhoods Commission time to generate bylaws, including protocols and procedures for commonly asked questions of commissioners. This will give the Commission the opportunity to become more efficient and will optimally reduce workload on staff. Reducing the size of the Commission jeopardizes the representative diversity of our neighborhoods.
If I could add.
Sure.
That might be just fine. But let's stay, the Neighborhood Commission has historically been a stepping stone for participative government and the City Council for our diverse community. Let's keep the voice of our neighborhoods at the center of our community's government.
That's a good closing sentence.
Very
That's
nice.
a good closing
Because
sentence.
we have one or two people that have matriculated to City Council.
Can you give them the paper?
And, yeah, sure.
So we put that sentence at the end
At
of
the end.
Yeah,
reducing the size and all that?
Closing sentence.
All right,
All right,
I'll
so
make a
you
motion
guys,
for that.
you guys work on that. Let me do the thing that I didn't do, which is what?
What did you?
Jonathan, did you want to read the final letter?
Yes. So Honorable Mayor, Honorable City Council, the Neighborhoods Commission requests a one-year stay of the Neighborhood Commission as is, with no changes for the 2017-2018 year. This will give the Neighborhoods Commission time to generate bylaws, including protocols and procedures for commonly asked questions of commissioners. This will give the Commission the opportunity to become more efficient and will optimally reduce workload on staff. Reducing the size of the Commission jeopardizes the representative diversity of our neighborhoods. The Neighborhoods Commission has historically been a stepping stone for participative government and to a seat on the City Council for our diverse community. Let's keep the voice of our neighborhoods at the center of our community's government.
Nice job.
We're awesome.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Vote. Yeas? Nays?
Good finish.
Sabrina, would you review that for typos and syntax?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
pronunciation, because I messed it up too.
Yeah, well, so fast it'd be embarrassing. if we-
Participative is a big word.
Great. Any other, go ahead. Go ahead. You were going to speak?
Nope, I was gonna let you motion for adjournment.
Okay, motion for adjournment.
I motion that.
Thank you. Adjourn.
Wait, I'm sorry, who motioned?
I motion to adjourn.
Lebowski.
Has one ever been voted no? We don't want to.
Good job, everybody.